Look at all of you. That is one thing that I never get tired of doing. Standing up here and looking out at this sea of queer faces. I look forward to it all year, in fact. Like Maverick said, I'm Anna Phylaxis. If you've volunteered with the march or in patrol lately, we've probably met. And if we haven't, hi! I was hoping for the chance to stand up here in front of all your beautiful faces and tell you how good things are, how we're beating back the darkness and it's nothing but clear skies ahead. But you know, and I know, that ain't the kind of year it's been. As I look out on all your faces, I'm reminded that the last time I saw some of you was right here in February as we came together to grieve the loss of our young sibling, Nex Benedict, after he was murdered by brutality and hopelessness. In the last year, we've seen a full-fledged retreat from public support of queer rights. Budweiser was brutalized in public because they dared to put a trans woman on a marketing campaign. Target is pulling their pride displays from stores. Rainbow capitalism has shown itself to be the flimsy window decal of support we all knew it to be. Easily thrown up and just as easily pulled down as the political winds begin to change. Yeah, that's right. With this speech, in some ways, I feel like a political weatherwoman. Every year, I give you a forecast about how those winds are blowing. Well, I won't mince words. I see dark clouds on the horizon, and I hear that thunder. Queer rights, queer lives are more in the crosshairs than at any time in my adult life. The right wing and their Project 2025 are coming after us, stronger than I've seen since I was a little girl, living through the beginning of the AIDS crisis. You know, they call us degenerates. They tell the world that we're dangerous to have around your children. That simple awareness of our existence is a social contagion so virulent that they have to dismantle education and pass legislation to censor us absolutely from public life in the desperate hope that if they can keep their kids from knowing the words gay or trans, that they can somehow keep them from being those things. As if we needed the words to know who we are and who we are not. Yeah, hey, let me ask you, did any of you need them to tell you who and what you were? No? I didn't think so. So if it's a fight that we're in for, we're going to have to fight like hell. To look to the examples set by our elders, by groups like ACT UP and the Lesbian Avengers who began the traditions that we uphold here tonight together. Those who would eradicate us imagine us as some insignificant minority of freaks that can be run out of society. But the only insignificant thing about us is the amount of patience we have left for their bullshit. The future, nope, got too excited. We are going to need to show them that if they dream of constructing a society without us in it, they will first have to reckon with the fact that without us, their society does not run. And the future of our resistance might not look like this. It might not look like permitted events and pride parades. It might need to look like something a lot more disruptive, something that cannot be ignored or dismissed, but must be reckoned with. And in looking for examples, we could do worse, much worse, than to look to the students in colleges across the nation who, with their whole lives ahead of them and everything to lose, have refused to be silent in the face of genocide. Society has thrown every tool of suppression at them. They've faced doxing, administrative punishment, blacklisting, hell. They've faced violent Proud Boy mobs and police with 40-millimeter launchers. And you know what? It did not break them. Well, let me tell you, we're going to want to borrow some of that spirit for the years to come, because they will try to break us. They've already been trying with their hatred, with their cruelty, hell, with their utter apathy and the half-hearted promises that our president has got our back. Yeah? He's got my back? Well, where is he then? Because I don't see him around. Do you? But you know who I have seen? I've seen Dyke Patrol volunteers protecting our events and our vigils, standing strong in the spirit of "we keep us safe." Let me hear you all say that. We keep us safe. That's right. I've seen our organizers running vigils, protests, and actions. I've seen our local queer students at Emerson College stand firm in the face of overwhelming police violence and then show up the very next day to provide jail support. Those are the people who've had my back this year and the people whose backs I've got. And having each other's backs, that's going to matter a lot in the year to come. I spoke to you about ACT UP protests in the 90s. I spoke to you about the fight against racism and homophobia and transphobia and genocide, because it's all one fight. It is the fight against violence, repression, and authoritarianism, and solidarity is how we resist it. When the students fight against genocide, we show up. We show up for everybody. When our neighbors fight against police brutality and racism, we show up. We show up because our strength is in solidarity. Our power is in solidarity. And that's how we're going to win. Together. And now, I want to introduce you to someone who's taught me more than a little bit about solidarity. Someone who's had my back for years. One of my best friends, co-lead of Dyke Patrol. If you've been here before, you've seen her. The one, the only, Hamel!
All right, I'm a little shorter than Anna. Can everyone hear me? All right. If you have volunteered with or attended the Boston Dyke March in the past 7-ish years, you may recognize me. My name is Hamel, and typically you'll find me behind the scenes. But today, I'm up here to talk about the ongoing genocide in Palestine. The Boston Dyke March is committed to queer liberation, anti-capitalism, intersectional gender liberation, and community. Now more than ever, we are called to those commitments. We are called to recognize that the struggle for queer liberation is the struggle for self-determination. The struggle for queer liberation is a struggle against all systems of colonial violence, against dispossession and displacement, against genocide. Our liberation is the liberation of our siblings in Gaza. In addition to being a non-binary trans person, a queer person, and a Dyke March organizer, I am also Arab American. I have 5 cousins born and raised in Lebanon. 2 of them are queer. As you can imagine, as a queer, trans, Arab American, this year has been particularly difficult. I watched the genocide in Palestine, and I remember evacuating part of my family during the Israel-Hezbollah conflict in 2006, wondering if my older cousins would be killed in a bombing as they tried to go to work. I remember driving through the Dyke neighborhood in southern Beirut on the south in 2007, seeing the damage wrought by Israeli bombs. I feel very deeply the pain and the grief and the uncertainty of tomorrow that this year's violence has brought us. I watched the genocide in Palestine and know that our country is complicit in the indiscriminate bombing of tens of thousands of civilians, complicit in the murder of children and of entire families, in the trauma of those who have lost their parents, siblings, children, complicit in famine, in the poisoning of water and crops, in the burning of olive groves, in the scars left by white phosphorus, in collective punishment, and in the brutality of genocide. And I am up here speaking tonight to hold space for our grief, but especially for theirs, to hold space as a queer, trans, Arab American for the unimaginable grief and loss that has been suffered this year and every year since 1948 in Palestine. Our country is complicit, but we are not helpless. I have been inspired by the ongoing protests and the students at Emerson and Northeastern and Tufts and Harvard and Columbia and so many other places that have come out in support of the Palestinian people. These students represent so many walks of life. They are Muslim, they are Jewish, they are Christian, they are atheist, they are Arab and Black and white and Asian and indigenous. I believe they represent the best of us and the ideals we strive to uphold. Less than 800 feet from here where we stand, they washed the blood of Emerson students off the streets because those students dared to take up space and fight for an end to genocide. Shame on the Boston police for their violence. Shame on Mayor Wu for signing off on it. Shame on this city for using the same horrific ordinances that they used to brutalize homeless people to silence protest. These students have stood up and run headlong into a wall of repression. We will watch that grow higher as our country continues its walk towards fascism. But we must run into it and we must fight harder. So I'm calling all of you tonight to join the fight. Join a protest against the genocide. Ask your representatives to support sanctions against the Israeli military. Ask them to support punishment for war crimes. Ask them to end weapons and transfers to the Israeli military. I want their phones to ring off the hook as we collectively ask what the fuck they're doing in response to the brutality happening right now in Rafah. And the last thing that you can do tonight for me is to learn how to be a marshal and help keep the protesters safe. We could really use more protest marshals in Boston. The local marshals have been supporting protests to end the genocide against Palestinians for months. They are exhausted. I have trained new marshals myself for both Merrimack Valley for Palestine and Somerville for Palestine, leveraging my work with the Dyke Patrol. I would love to train you. If you are interested in joining this work, come find me after I get off stage. I'd love to recruit you. And I will end tonight with words from a queer Palestinian. Queer Palestinians have been systematically blackmailed by the Israeli government to undermine the Palestinian struggle for liberation. So this quote is anonymous, taken from a project called Queering the Map. They said, "I always imagined you and me sitting out in the sun, hand in hand, free at last. We spoke of all the places we would go if we could, yet you are gone now. If I had known that the bombs raining down on us would take you from me, I would have gladly told the world how I adored you more than anything. I am sorry I was a coward." Thank you for coming out tonight and being in community with us. There may be scary times ahead in our country and across the world, but I wish for you to live truly and openly as yourself. I wish for you to get out and fight for bodily autonomy, for freedom to live as a full and joyous life for everyone, to fight for an end to genocide and apartheid everywhere. Thank you for coming to the Boston Dyke March. I look forward to fighting with you in the future.